Is buying a classic car on Bring a Trailer or Cars and Bids or P-Car Market risky business? We're going to talk about that, plus results of our auction predictions from the last episode and all new auction predictions. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Nerds! Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube card game show where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Hagerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. And we are live. Hello to the Nerd Herd hanging out there. Everyone's waiting for us to get started. We got started a little late. Sorry about that, everyone. Thanks for hanging around. The Nerd Herd is already full up. You guys rock. My name is John Pullman. I'm your host, coming to you from the downtown Las Vegas Container Park, where EDC is going on. Lots of girls walking around in skimpy little outfits outside. That doesn't suck.
No wonder.
Yeah, that's why we're late. You're going, oh, it all becomes amazingly clear. My partner, Michael Deeb, who is not here watching the scantily clad girls walk by. He is in San Francisco. How you doing, Michael Deeb? What's up?
Absolutely. JP, if I was in the studio and there was girls, like half-naked girls outside, I think we would never get the show live and you'd be out of lotion. So there, you know.
Well, that just got the show started off in a kind of a weird way. All right, guys. We are, man, is it risky business out there? What the hell is going on all the auction sites, man? We are seeing some weird...
Look at those results. What
weird results, man. And we're going to get to those in just a second, but we got a shout out, of course, to Godden Classic, Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. I went over there this week to visit Steve Teal over there. They have their classic Porsche Restoration Challenge car. That's a challenge that Porsche dealers, classic dealers, have to participate in every year. And they're restoring a... let's see, what is it? An 88 911 Targa that was chopped. Right. Somebody chopped the Targa off of it and made it a cab back in the 90s. And they are restoring it to all its Targa goodness. And let me tell you, it is coming along. I am so jealous of that car when it's done. Yeah.
Can we ask one specific question?
Sure.
Is the Targa bar back in place? Is that
the Targa bar is now back in place? Yeah.
How cool is it?
Well, I mean, it's just welded on. It doesn't have the cover on it. It's just the bar. You know, they had to get in and under.
It's like a roll bar. Yeah.
Just a roll bar. They don't have the glass in it yet. You know, he said some absurd amount of hours that it took to put that bar back on. And I'm like, is it like? And I had to ask him, like, okay, on the 993s, if you take the convertible part off, then it doesn't have the lip for the glass. But apparently the 964s and the G-bodies do. So I'm like, maybe I can convert my cab into a Targa. What do you guys think of that? How crazy?
Yeah. Or you could buy our host's car tonight. You could buy our feature car tonight. You could just do that.
Oh, look at that. Teasing the lead. Yeah. There it is. All right. Well, shout out to Godden. They're doing some amazing stuff. Check them out on the InstaWebs. And then, of course, Our Smiths. You're going, why were you guys late? It's because my fine Swiss watch wasn't serviced at Our Smiths. If you got a fine Swiss watch or you're looking for one, give our friends a call at Our Smiths or check them out at oursmiths.com. All right, we are getting after it. We made some predictions on the last episode. Crazy results. What was the first car on our list from last episode, Michael Lee?
All right, JP. Our dear friend Mental has a buddy here in the Bay Area over in Hayward named Joff. And Joff has a repair shop. Joff does tuning and muscle cars and race cars. I think that's how he and Mental know each other. I'm not 100% sure. But Joff was selling his own car on Bring a Trailer. It's a 1984 Chevrolet Camaro Z28. Now, JP, if we're doing the timeline right, this is the car that came out like with the new body style, but this is right before they got the IROC moniker. And this car painted in a sort of root beer brown metallic with the gradiated brown and gold striping on down to like the gold front air dam, gold IROC wheels, and gold like rockers is just bitching. This car looks awesome. And the other thing that's really cool, JP, is despite this car being like, heavily modified, it looks bone stock. Like if you rolled up to this in a Mustang or a Corvette, you'd be like, oh, let me see if I can get this chump to race me, only to find out that this guy's got a built 350 under the hood with a Tremec 6-speed manual and a limited slip differential. This car will smoke your ass. This car is so awesome. The cloth interior looks really good. It almost looks like a damn time machine. Even the carpets are basically free from stain. This car's got all the goods and preserved almost all of the look. It's hard to call a Camaro, a sheaf, but this is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. It looks like a car that you might think I could pick on, only to find out you made a huge mistake and you're about to see his taillights. So anyways, Joff is selling his own car on BAT. He hired a guy to take photos and represent the car for him. I know this because Mental had put me in touch with him about possibly representing the car myself on Haggerty, where I think the car could have done well because we're so domestic heavy. But I thought this car would do pretty good on BAT because of the whole Radwood movement. JP, look, I talked to the guy. He's super nice. The car is amazing. I really wanted the car to do great. I gave us a bid of $28,028. But I was really hoping this car would make it up to like that $20,000-$25,000 range. And if two people fought over it, then my 28 might be in play. You kind of replaced my bid at $25,000. And we had Mike Perlman from the Motoring Club of San Francisco, which is almost open. I actually popped in there on Saturday and stuck my head just in the door. Mike wasn't there, but the guys were working, and that place really is taking shape. But Mike Perlman came on as a guest host, and he gave us the bid of $22,500. We got lots of great bids in the herd, but the low bid, like Christian was the low bid at like $13,000. I mean, come on, let's be. There's a lot of car here for the money. JP, should we just dive into the results right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep. Okay, cool. So our car sold for just $17,750 on 19 bids. First of all, I'm shocked the bid count was that low. Like, I really think that like a car of this cool, the driving video is good, the questions were answered well, and the photographs are decent. I really thought this car would get more attention, more love, and more money. One, it's interesting that it's sold, right? Like, it's sold for that number. It wasn't running no reserve. I didn't ask Joff specifically if he pulled the reserve or if they only agreed to a low reserve. But at $17,750, I know he wanted more money than that. So there's a degree of disappointment. The car is gone. He's got some money in his pocket. But I thought it was going to do better. I know he wanted it to do better. JP, are you surprised by that number? I mean, let's talk about this. That car didn't even make $18,000. Even at 25, you were saying that's a lot. Like, what else could you get would be this fun to drive at 25? Well, you can't get anything like this for 17. I kind of feel like the car got stolen. Would you agree with that sentiment? Where are you at with this whole thing? Because I'm a little bummed out.
Yeah, shout out to Ace. Looks like he's the winner in the nerd herd out there at 19 grand. Yeah, I think this car was stolen. It's stolen for me. I'm bummed that I wasn't paying closer attention and that I didn't snatch up this car. This is, I've been really kind of looking at the cars that I have in my stable and thinking about mixing things up a little bit. And, we changed the name of the Durfascination YouTube channel to Cars Unknown officially. If you're looking for Durfascination, you'll still find it on YouTube, but it's technically now at Cars Unknown, because I really want to change the channel and start talking, being a little bit more agnostic to other cars that I've always loved. And this is one of them. I'm not a big American car guy, but if I were to get into one, this is the way I'd want to go. Another car that we've talked about in the past was like, a Trans Am or something like that from the 70s. And we talked about that. Yeah, we had that modded one that had a 6-speed in it. Yeah. And here's a Camaro with a 6-speed. The thing about those TAs is that they're still commanding big money. Right. The 70s, the Smokey and the Bandit cars are still bringing $60,000. This thing under $20,000, dude. I'm really bummed. Like, genuinely disappointed. I literally would have bought this car and would have gotten rid of at least one of the Porsches. I just said it on the show, especially under $20,000. A 6-speed, small block V8 and something like this. No, it's not going to go around corners all that well, but who cares? You're going to be, it's just so much fun for no money. That is just I mean, even Fox body Mustangs are ridiculously expensive when they're in good shape. You can find them cheap, but they're just roached out pieces of crap. This is a nice car for under 20 grand. What the hell happened? What day of the week was it when this thing sold?
Good question, JP. It was Thursday the 16th.
So it was a Thursday, and it didn't even bring. I would have guessed if somebody said, I would have said, "Oh, this is a Saturday auction." And it just missed because it was an off day. But bam, that just shocks me to the core.
Yeah, it closed it was an early close. It was 10:30 in the morning. So, you're talking 12:30, 1:30 back east. Maybe that had something to do with it, but that's the only thing, doing a little forensic accounting here. Shout out to Mike Perlman. He won that in studio. And another shout out for Ace, who I'm not familiar with. Ace. He's a new herd, and I just haven't been paying attention. New member. But well done. Ace got that one being really close to a Yahtzee, about 1,000 away.
Shout out to Derek Whitaker, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago. He is a Fox body Mustang owner. And he's mentioning too, it's like the 80s Camaros don't bring the money that the Fox body Mustangs do. They should, but they don't. I mean, I think that's a good take. And I think the Camaros are a diamond in the rough. They're of value right now. And does this mean that people are going to start snatching them up because they're cheap and then they'll get cool, or are they just going to languish? That's the big question. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below.
Let's clarify something about Derek Whitaker's car, first of all.
He does not have a regular Fox body Mustang.
There is barely any Fox left under that body. I guarantee you that he has subframe connectors galore on that mother chicken. That car that Derek Whitaker has is, first of all, I think it's one of only a handful of absolutely wild, almost prototype. Like when we talk about box fender flares, they're cartoonishly large. It's almost, and I don't want to say this because RWBs on our show get a bad rap, but it is the RWB of Fox body Mustangs. Derek's car is unbelievable. I can't wait to see that thing in person. Yeah. Plus he got a wild car to start with, and then he's been doing his thing to it. That car is going to be amazing. I'm sure it already is amazing now, but as he continues to develop that car over the next year or two, that is going to scare the hell out of a lot of people. That car is bodacious. Derek's got to send us a picture one of these days.
So that's anyways. The thing. Does this Camaro kind of lend itself to maybe it's kind of risky business selling something like that on Bring a Trailer? Would that car have done better anywhere else? You mentioned Haggerty. I don't know. Could you have sold that car for more on Facebook Marketplace? Was this just a total Facebook failure?
Facebook Marketplace would have been a very interesting place to field questions. And then my pitch to him is that Haggerty is domestic heavy, and we have a lot of domestic buyers. I would say, for the rare and unusual domestic car on BAT, sure, it's the biggest auction platform in the world. But I think, the 1.82 million people that we've got watching our platform are all domestic collectors that can afford to buy a car like that. It's easy to say hindsight, I think I could have got more money for it, but I think I could have got more money for it,
All right, let us know what you guys think of the Camaro results in the comments below. And let's move on to the next car. Talk about the below.
Yeah, JP. So JP, you picked this car, right? We're still giving you credit for selecting this car. All right, on P-Car Market, John found a 1977 911S with a chop top. Look at that thing. This is the 54 Merc Cruiser of 911s with a custom 3.2 liter motor. And that's interesting to say, the 3.2 that's in there, because obviously a 77 911S obviously would have been a narrow body car all the way down the hips. So this car was treated to turbo fender flares in the front and the rear. It's got a turbo Carrera wing. And then they did the chop top. It's got these big 18-inch wheels and a front oil cooler and the aforementioned 3.2 liter motor. And then all the other funny, it's got an exhaust system, it's got a prototipo, it's got some bucket seats and some RS pull straps. This car is a hodgepodge of parts. And, after looking at it, we just none of us could really make sense of it. It's like, why'd you chop the top and then not ditch the sunroof? You would have picked up 2 more inches of headroom. And then what's up with these headlights? They don't look finished in their holes in the front of the car. And somebody explained to me what's going on with that exhaust coming out of the rear IROC bumper. And why did you paint all these things red, like the mesh grill across your oil cooler? But JP, you also make another argument on a lot of cars we look at that some people can't squint and see the car or the potential of the car through a bad pair of wheels or, I don't know, some funky stickers or livery or whatever. And I just wondered if somebody would like snag this car and then go to town fixing it up. But anyway, JP, we kind of made fun of this car, and then I gave you my bid of $28,000. John, you took the over, hedging your bid on the value of the motor and the drivetrain, giving us the bid of $45,911, which is almost $20,000 above my bid. And then Mike Perlman from the Motoring Club of San Francisco, who was our guest host on the show, he gave us his bid just under yours, JP, obviously agreeing with your argument more than mine, of $42,500. The bids were low. Nobody was really as high as you guys in the herd, except Michael S. was at 45. So, JP, our car hammered at just $40,000, where, shockingly, it failed to sell on just 7 bids. That's, first of all, that's humiliating, right? I just think that's like embarrassing. And then this car has the nerve, and I mean instantly, shows up in the chum bucket for $105,000. P Car Market's Deal Tank is asking $105,000 for this car, which is really just to solicit another offer on it, which it hasn't gotten. It's still sitting. The high offer is still the final bid of $40,000. Nobody's made an offer on this car at all. So John, I don't think any of us are surprised that it barely made 50 grand or didn't quite make 50 grand and wind up in the chum bucket. But 40 up to 105 is delusional to me. What help me read the tea leaves. What else are you seeing that's going on here? Because this whole thing was laughable from the get-go. 7 bids. I mean, come on, man, take your lumps and go home. Like, that's like, nobody wants your car, bro. Like, that's brutal.
It's time for weekly.
Oh man,
P-Car Market sucks, man. They just continue to suck. It's like the fact that nobody's surprised at all about the result, right? 40 grand. There's rumors about this car that this was a burned down car at one point.
Wow.
And that's why it was chopped or whatever. This is not a car that is, it's effed. There's no fixing this car. It would cost way too much money to try to get it. The front piece is one big clamshell. There's just no way to easily make this car nice, unlike some of the other cars that we found that you were talking about. But you look at the listing here and everything that was going on. I mean, the interaction between the seller and the people who were bidding on this car. Again, we talked about that Speedster on the last episode, that 964 that was listed by P-Car Market that they weren't authorized to sell, from what we understand, and they claim that they were, and it's always a story with P-Car Market, and of course they took down a bunch of comments. Specifically from the herd, right? Going in there going, hey, what the hell is going on here? This car's sold. And watching this auction close, there were a ton of people like asking stupid questions like, "What's the reserve?" And just weird stuff. And people were asking the weirdest questions, and they had to P-Car Market was banning people and deleting comments, and because of course people were just nasty about this car. But here Andrew 704 whatever Lee, your account is being temporarily disabled. It's like, what happened there? What's going on, right?
Yeah.
Just drama surrounding this thing. The fact that P-Car Market, again, $40,000, no big surprise. If you are supposed to be an expert, you own a platform or you run a platform called P-Car Market that ostensibly sells Porsches, you would think that you'd have kind of a general idea of what the hell one would be worth. And so the idea that they would let this car on knowing that the person is going to want $105,000 in the chum bucket, they'd have to know that this car isn't worth anywhere close to that. So why waste everyone's time listing this pile of crap? this is a parts car, or this is a joke car. This, you either own this ironically because you're like, oh, look at this stupid Porsche that I bought, and I'm so flexed that I've got 50 grand that I can drop on this stupid thing, and everyone will get a laugh out of it, right? But how many people want to do that? Not very many. As soon as the seller is talking to the rep and says, yeah, if it doesn't, I mean, what was the reserve on this thing? 90? 100? Like,
Seriously.
at that point, if you're at P-Car Market, you got to be, hey, buddy, come on, like, put down the crack pipe and call us back when you're not high. The results of this and the show that P-Car Market continues to be is just like, it's like, why does anybody even bother either selling a car or buying a car or attempting to buy a car from this platform? It's just a big old jerk off waste of time. It just shakes my head. What do you guys think out there in the nerd herd? What's going on out there? Who got the closest to this one?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me scroll back. Randy B says, Randy B says, laugh out loud. This one can't be unseen.
Yeah. Oh, look at it. Brian L got a Yahtzee on that one. Good job.
Brian L got a Yahtzee at 40,000.
Yeah, dude. All right, right on.
Nailed it. Send him a beanie.
Anybody get a Yahtzee on the Chum Bucket bid on what they thought it would wind up going for?
Oh yeah, no, I don't know if anybody wrote those down, but anyway, that's pretty good. 40. Yeah, the Chum Bucket, that spread, like P-Car Market doesn't. There's no custodial anything. Like they don't hold your hand through the process. If you tell them, hey, I want to click, it's live. They just throw it up, and then while it's up, they're like, hey, you got to lower that reserve. Hey, you got to lower that reserve. This car never had a chance. This was DOA. It's a rough car to begin with, and now the fact that they have the audacity to advertise it in their classifieds at 6 figures, there's not 6 figures worth of parts there. It's pathetic. So whatever.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Never mind that car. I mean, you look at how many cars. That's got to be one of the biggest spreads between what was bid and what actually happened. We've been talking. Well, we'll get to that.
It's 150% more. They're asking 150% more than the final bid for the classified asking.
I mean, that is just insane. And another thing that I'm seeing happening a lot too is when we're looking at P-Car Market listings that wind up in the Chum Bucket is there's what the car was bid to on the live auction, right? That's a number. And then they've got the current offer because people tend to bid after the auction closes and no one buys it. And then there's also the buy it now price. So there's 3 numbers that you got to look at, and they bury the highest bid and then it switches to offers. So it gives like this, it's just everything is just screams not transparent. Like there was this, they had a 964 America Roadster on there the other day. It was a beautiful car, but it was a Tiptronic, which is totally sad. That car got up to, I want to say like 80,000 or something like that. But in the Chum Bucket for $125, does anybody think that has any chance of getting there? Of course not. P-Car Market, what are you doing? Why are you bothering listing this car if you think someone's going to pay $125,000 for a Tiptronic anything? They just don't know what the hell they're doing, or they do know what the hell they're doing. They just want they want to just waste people's
free
time.
Inventory.
Yeah,
it's free.
inventory.
They don't have to pay flooring on these cars.
Yeah,
and they've got an outstanding amount of money. I mean, what does P-Car Market do with the money when they're holding all these bids that they get on these cars? They're holding all those bids, like the percentage of every bid that they get.
That's the other thing too is when you bid, they take that money. Yeah.
What are they doing with the money while they hold it? Like, are they out playing dice out back? You know what I mean?
They're at the craps table, or they're buying some crypto and turning it over.
Are they in Atlantic City? Like, come on, Red.
That's what the porn companies in the '90s did, right? When the .com boom, they would, it's $9.99 for porn, and then you they charge you for 3 months on your credit card, and then you're like, you try to cancel, and they don't cancel for another 3 months, so they have your money for 6 months, and the whole time they're just putting in the stock market, building the .com bubble, and then they'll refund your money after 6 months, and then 6 months later they'll accidentally charge you again for another 6 months. There was a bunch of people that went to jail for that. So
is that illegal?
Yeah, shocking,
weird.
right?
That's so weird.
Yeah, so
Banks
I think
can-
maybe that's
banks
what
can do
that's what PCAR Market's doing with your with the fee that they hold for like 2, 3, 4 weeks before they give it back to you.
JP, that's so weird that that's illegal because banks can do it. Why can't pornographers and car salesmen do it?
And
That's
PCAR
just crazy.
Market, right on. All right, what do you guys think of the results of this chop top piece of chop?
Did we just figure out what the P stands for in PCAR Market?
Let us know what you think of that result, and let us know what you think of the price in the chum bucket. I mean, who was taking the bigger risk, the seller or anyone that bid on that thing? Let us know. Let's move on. What else did we make a prediction on in the last episode?
Yeah, your reputation takes a hit if you bid, publicly on PCAR Market on a bad car like that.
Right.
Especially with the herd watching. Thank you, the herd. Okay, here we go. Cars and Bids had a 1985 BMW 323 Bauer TC convertible. This is a European market E30 that was chopped, basically. I don't think this car started as a convertible, but Bauer turned it into a convertible. And along the way, did some really cool upgrades. So we got those BBS wheels. Let me read some of these other modifications because there's some really cool stuff. The exterior was treated to almost a full Kamei, K-A-M-E-I. Do you remember how to pronounce that, JP? Help me out. Kamei, front splitter, side skirts, rear spoiler, and it's got these like very gently lower boxed things around the front and rear wheels. The leather interior was red, but they added more leather upholstery to like the dashboard and the steering wheel and a few other places where it wasn't originally. The aforementioned BBS wheels, and then some Bilstein shocks to lower the car. And then Hartgay did like a cylinder head and a camshaft, and there's an aftermarket exhaust system. So all in all, this car's got a very unique very 80s tailor-made look to it. But there's a few things to give it, just a few mods to give it a little go fast, so that this car actually will get yourself down the road. Neat car. It's registered in Port St. Lucie in Florida. The car is showing 90,000 miles, but its true mileage unknown because it started life in Europe. And again, it's on Cars and Bids, Doug DeMiro's site. So I thought this car was going to do well, JP. I gave us a bid of $18,000. You took the under at $15,000, and then Mike Perlman from the Motoring Club in San Francisco was our third nerd. He was a guest host on the show with us. He started out really liking the car and then realized that he had seen this car for sale somewhere else, or it had sold someplace else or failed to sell someplace else at a very low number. And then, like, as he was talking through his bid, we watched him change his bid based on this car years previously having a low number associated with, and then he gave us a modified, an abridged bid of $13,750. Do you remember watching that happen, John? He was typing while he was talking, and he goes, "Oh, this car FTS'd a couple years ago at like 12 grand." So he went down to 13,750. So we got good bids in the herd. Ben is high at 20 grand, and who's low? Buddha was at 13.5. I think that's like the low bid. Chris was at 13,323.
Bill G had 11.5. So
thank you. Oh, thank you for catching that. Our car hammered at $12,200, where it failed to sell, John. It got 35 bids. That is decent action, but the money was not behind the bids. It failed to sell at $12,200. So one, I thought it was really interesting how Mike made his argument and then came down to that low bid where he would win on the show. And then at 11.5, I actually think, like you're saying, Big is our winner, right? At that number. That would be the winner. Would 13 be closer? No, the 11.5 would be closer. So that's our winner in the herd. So John, talk to me about. So at 12.2, first of all, I don't agree that that's the value of the car. That based on that being the hammer price, I don't think that's where we should believe the value of the car is. I still think this car is worth more money. But what do you think the reserve might have been set at, despite what we bid on it? Where do you think the reserve was set at? What do you think this car is actually worth? Like if we get it off this site and find the right people who would appreciate this, don't you think somebody would pay close to 20 grand for that? Or is a car that is modified, a European E30 with some go fast parts and some custom tailoring, is a DOA car in the United States? It's just 12.2 doesn't make any sense to me at all. And yet Mike, who loved the car, lowered his bid when he saw, this car had been associated with a small result, and then 12.2 is where the hammer stopped. I explain to me what the hell's going on. That just doesn't make sense to me, John. How does this hold water to you?
Well, I mean, I think this is kind of a weird car, and that makes sense for cars and bids, of course. But sometimes stuff is just a little too obscure. I don't think that's really the problem. Interestingly enough, one of the earlier owners of this car saw the last episode after it was live.
Cool.
Yeah, DB from Arizona, I guess.
Shout
Love
out,
the analysis
DB.
of the
watching.
BMW Bauer one-off six-figure customation. There were hundreds of this model made by Bauer. This was imported for resale and sold new for $22,700. That was a lot of money back then. And he said he owned this car for decades and was the seller on BAT. So I had to ask him, I'm like, wow, how do you feel about the results on cars and bids? And he followed up with, I don't follow cars and bids, but I don't think they match the audience of BAT. And I think he's right. He also mentioned that also the seller did a half-hearted presentation. And that I couldn't agree with more. These photos are straight up criminal. They're
terrible.
Just what are you doing? If you want to sell your car, you have to present the car in a way that are going to make people find some romanticism. We're talking about classic cars here. And again, I know that the platforms struggle with this same problem over and over and over again, that they get these sellers with high expectations, but these sellers don't put in the effort. The platforms beg and plead the sellers to get decent pictures. Go pay a real photographer. Take the time to do it right and present the car. You'll make thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars more if you do. But it's like asking the sellers. It's like asking them to pull their own teeth out with a screwdriver or something. It's just not going to happen. Some people are just straight up incapable of conceiving how to do that. And this guy has a fail to sell on this car. And when we know that, someone like our friends at Avant-Garde or whatever, if they took real photos of this thing, this car could probably be a $30,000 car. It should be. It's that cool. It's that rare. It's that different. This is way cooler than any E30 that I've seen, other than maybe a E30 M3. Is there an E30 that you think is cooler than this? I don't know.
I mean, there's first of all, I think all E30s have a cult following in this country. And I love that. I like the cars a lot. They're really, I've never even owned one, and I really have a heart connection to. I just think that the balance, the eye. I think they're great performance cars, and they're great starter cars to the genre. But there's so many really cool obscure models that we get from Europe. Every time I see an E30 wagon, I'm like, oh, look how cool that is, So this car, although this one wouldn't be for me, I would just think people would fight over this car, and so I'm shocked by that. But I think the previous owner makes a really good point about comparing the platforms, and JP, you and Mike Perlman both pounded the desk while we were covering this car initially, that these photos and this presentation in Florida being pulled out of a shed and shot in a storage facility is deplorable. We're not even talking about leaving money on the table. You didn't sell your car. You didn't get any money, buddy. This car, if 12.2 is the bid here, then I'll give you a bid of 24.4 if, like you said, somebody of the caliber of Avant-Garde took photos of this car, or let's say Defascination or something of that nature. It would have done way better with it. So yeah, I couldn't agree with all three of you more than I'm saying right here. So for sure, it's a bummer. Now this guy's got a firm grip on the car, and he's hurt himself by creating this as a comparable value to his car the next time he goes to sell. It's a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see, even if you did bring it over to BAT with better photos, could he do a little better? Probably. But, is this car burned? I don't think it's totally fried.
No,
I think it's possible if someone got a hold of this thing and put it on the better platform and presented it better, I think the car could get, in the high teens at least. But what's this person's expectations? Did he think he has a $20-something thousand car? And, I think there was definitely the potential for that. But now with these low numbers associated with it, it's going to be a long time until his car gets anywhere near that. All right, what do you guys think of the results of this little BMW? Was it risky business bringing this car on Cars and Bids? Should he have taken better pictures? Should he put it on a better platform? Would any of that have made a difference, or is this car, was it already burned because of its previous auction results? Let us know in the comments below, and let's do one more recap from the last episode. This car is like a boomerang that comes back and hits you in the head. And
we haven't laughed hard enough.
This damn thing, it just won't go away. It's like a dog-ish stuck to your shoe.
I thought you were going to say something like, it's like a podcast partner that moves to San Francisco. He just keeps showing up. Every time I turn on the podcast, he's there. Oh my God. JP, Chris Carbine selected for us. And I mean, 12
and let's
hours
not go over this too much, but just a quick recap.
12 hours after this car FTS'd on BAT, it was live on P-Car Market. And again, it's not a surprise that it showed up on P-Car Market, but it was breathtaking how quick that car went live. John and I wondered out loud if the deal to P-Car Market was made in the hour that it failed to sell on BAT. What we're talking about is the 1978 911 SC that was created to look like a backdated RSR with a 2.8 twin plug motor. We all like the color and the build, but John, pointed out some really obvious things that don't make sense, like a very modern seat. I think Maurizio was with us when we covered it the first time. And he said, look, man, if you're going to do an RSR, the money is making it look like an RSR and not a resto mod. So anyways, this car goes on P-Car Market. We all kind of laughed because it's like you're your own worst comp. JP, I actually thought this car could make $86,000. You took the over at 87.9, which surprised me. And then Mike Perlman from the Motoring Club of San Francisco was as a guest host. He gave us the bid of $87,500, parking his bid effectively right underneath you, John. Our car failed to sell. Here's what's interesting, JP. I don't know if you caught this when you looked at the results. When we covered the car with a couple of days to go, our car was sitting at $66,666 on 4 bids. It failed to sell at that number, meaning in the 24 or 48 hours after we covered it, it didn't get another bid before closing and now sits in the chum bucket, P-Car Market's deal tank, for an asking price of $130,000. It's interesting, JP, as you talk about the 3 numbers we need to consider about a P-Car Market result. What was the final bid number before the hammer closed? What's the buy it now price? And then has there been an offer made? And if there's an offer, you would think they would market it that we got an offer of $98,000. But what P-Car Market does is say that it got a final bid of $98,000, which is not accurate because it wasn't a bid. It was an offer. So either that or the platform's broken. Did it get all these bids? Did my computer just screw up? Now I'm looking at this.
No, I mean, it got 60.
It
was 66 grand or something like that at the end, and then and then people were bidding afterwards. Again, it was one of those. Again, it's P-Car Market. You can't, like, what was the actual high bid?
Yeah, this is really weird. Now that I'm looking at these, all look like bids. We're going to have to get back to you on that. But anyways, maybe the final bid was $98,000. Maybe there was a glitch in my computer, but it's in the deal tank for $130,000, so nobody's surprised. JP, the question now that I bring to you is this. How burnt is this car having failed to sell on all the platforms? I mean, he's got to put this thing away for the summer and come back to us next winter, right? Could he really sell this car anywhere without having to deal with everybody going, hey man, that car only made 60,000 or 80,000 on the platforms? Like, where does he go? He's
already got it. I mean, within minutes of it failing to sell on P-Car Market, now he has it on Facebook Marketplace.
Oh my God.
Where he's trying to get 130 grand, and people are talking about how it failed. People, Howard, our friend who watches the show in the Nerd Herd, he posted it on one of the platforms. Hey man, this thing back to back failed to sell. You got to chill out and come back later. You got to take a break. And the guy's like, oh, I'm trying to sell it, So I don't get it. I don't know what this guy's expectations are at this point. I think the only thing he could really do, what he should do is he should go to our friends at God and Porsche and God and Classic of Las Vegas and just consign it there. I mean, take it to someone else and let some professionals deal with it, because you don't know what you're doing, my man. Your car is cool. It's got some issues. Change those seats. put it at in a consignment at a decent dealership and let them represent the car for the summer. It'll take all summer to sell it, but someone's going to buy it. It's a nice car, and it does have a great powertrain. There's just a few things wrong with this car, and are you going to get 130 grand for it? Kind of doubt it. Not for a while, but you probably get 100 and just move on if you really want out of this thing so bad. Otherwise, chill out. If you don't need the money so bad, just keep it. And come back in August or something like that and sell this thing when it's just about time for Car Week or something. I don't know. Let us know what you guys think about this, second, third time around RSR. Does this car ever have a chance of selling, or is this guy just totally stuck with it? What would you do if you had this car and were really trying to sell it? Let us know in the comments below. Maybe the owner will see your comments and take your advice. He needs some. And that is our predictions from the last episode. We have all new predictions teed up for you, and we will be right back. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden, this guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. Here we are back. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. All right, let's make some predictions. That last car, we really did cover some tough cars last week, and maybe we got some better stuff this week. Kevin wanted to note that Patrick Motorsports really corrected a lot of the issues in that last car. At 120 grand or at 100 grand, are you getting a solid deal on that RSR? Yeah. I mean, come on. Patrick Motorsports built engine, that'd be pretty dope. All right. We will not be talking about that car, hopefully, until the end of the summer when this guy tries to sell it again. What do we got next?
JP, it's worth noting that the previous show we did, we had 3 consecutive FTSs, and then the show we just recapped, we had one sale for $17,000, and the consignor was disappointed with the number, and then we had 3 consecutive FTSs. I mean, it's been a rough couple of weeks out there. Going back to your lead into the show, what is going on, man? Is it
risky business to try and sell your classic car on Bring a Trailer or any of the auction platforms or anywhere for that matter? Yeah. Is anything selling? I mean, we were watching results on some other cars that seem to do pretty well over the course of the week, but the ones that specifically we featured on the show did not. All right. What do we got this week? This first car on the list is one that I think should bring big money. I mean, this is a really nice car. What do we got?
I hope you got some pillows on the floor, because when I give you my bid for this, you're going to fall out of your chair. So, JP, I get to talk cars with Yuri and John all the time, and we go back and forth, kind of like me, you, and Chef do. Every once in a while, these guys send us a car. The trouble with Yuri and John is they always send me cars that are closing that day, whereas Chef always sends us a car the minute it goes live, which gives us an opportunity, like Chris Carbine, to cover those cars. In a rare occasion, John sent us, he said, dude, there's 2 purple Porsches on BAT right now. And one of them is this 1991 Porsche 911 Carrera 2 Targa with a 5-speed manual on BAT, offered by our friends at 911R. That's Avant-Garde's Scottsdale, Arizona location. This car was purchased by the current owner on Bring a Trailer in September of 2020. JP, you'll have to remember, September of 2020, the money hadn't hit yet. People were not going bananas. But this car in amethyst metallic with 67,000 miles out of New York sold on Bring a Trailer for just $72,500. This guy's owned the car for 4 years. It's got 67,000 miles now. And he's bringing it to Avant-Garde to sell for him, which I think is a very smart move. The car is photographed in the sun, which is not something Avant-Garde typically does, but it still looks really good despite there being a lot of color there. The interior is all black, and it looks like it's in really nice condition. I'm trying to think. I feel like I remember seeing the options on this car. I thought it was I can't see it. I wanted to see if it had a limited slip differential, but even if it didn't, I love this car, JP. 964 Targas. It seems like there's always one in the marketplace, but I can't remember since I met you and became a Porsche person, like truly, like I joined the club and I bought an air cooled car. I don't remember ever being somewhere where we drove with a 964 Targa on the rally with us or on the run. Like I've never hung out with somebody that has one of these cars, and I really like the way they look. I think these are beautiful cars. You came tantalizingly close to buying a white one that it feels like it was like the wife of the person who passed away was trying to get rid of her husband's car, and you almost bought that car, and I was super excited because I thought for a minute there, I really thought you were going to have that. But JP, I'm telling you, in a different situation, I would be bidding on this car. I love the amethyst, I love the cup ones, and the whole black leather manual Targa under 100,000 miles. Sign me up all day long. Um, Interesting thing, JP. From the fall of last year, 964 Targas are on about a 30% increase in value. These cars are actually starting to move. And so I think this person is selling this one in this colorway on this platform with this consigner at the right time. And I think this one's going to do really, really well. But I want you to talk about these cars. I bet you've driven one. There was a really cool one parked not too far from you and I at Air and Water. Do you remember seeing that 964 Targa that had beautiful like Pepita seats inside? Did you notice that car at all?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyways, all right. Talk to me about this car. What do you like? And is there anything on this car that you don't like or you think is going to interrupt something that could get in the way of this guy breaking the bank or setting kind of like a high water mark?
Well, I am concerned. Does it say anything about a repaint? Because one thing, I mean, these photos are beautiful, but this is always the hard part about buying a car on Bring a Trailer or any auction platform when you can't put eyes on it. It really looks to me like there's purple overspray on some of the trim, but I can't tell definitively from these photos. They're just not high resolution enough. But I mean, I don't know if you guys can see it on the screen here, but it does kind of look like overspray on that seal. I could be totally wrong.
The hood and rear quarter panel are noted to have been refinished under prior ownership. And this guy in 2022 had the engine resealed as part of his keeping up with the car, and then did a bunch of other like a major service with spark plugs and alternator shroud.
Yeah. We're not talking about mechanical stuff yet. I'm just talking about the paint.
Money was spent on the car. Yeah, money was spent on the car, and two panels are claimed to have been repainted.
Well, but that's the trick, is that money spent when you say it like that. Like, okay, seriously, when you're like, okay, well, money was spent. Yeah, so this money, the paint was like mechanical money going into mechanicals is a positive. Money going into paint is not, right? And I'm okay with it doesn't freak me out that, okay, I mean, this is a 40-year-old car getting paint work. Well, no big deal. But again, if there's evidence of a repaint from these I don't want to say crappy photos, but these fairly low resolution photos, if that's overspray on the black trim around the rear window, that's really bad that you can see it on these low resolution photos. So what's that going to look like in real life? Or is it just an artifact of low resolution photos on an internet listing? I mean, this car does look beautiful, but this is just where it really genuinely does become risky business when you are looking at a classic car, something like this, where that can make all the I mean, how big a difference in value can a poor repaint make, in your opinion, Michael D? That's a big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, it does. There's some most Porsche people are drivers and they'll take their car the way they can get it. But there's a whole faction of Porsche collectors who, if it's had too many clutches replaced, or if the rear tires are worn out, or if it's got paint work, they just turn their back on the car. So the fact that they lead with that in the paragraph and disclose it is fair enough, but that might shrink the audience of potential actual buyers. I'm not talking about bidders. There's plenty of bidders. 90% of the bidders aren't buyers. And so I'm talking about that you're shrinking the audience of people who are going to fight for this car until the end. JP, 9 times out of 10, the point you're making, I think, will carry the day. And it may ultimately affect the ultimate value of this car here. But I think the miles, the fact that it's a Targa and it's a manual on the Cup ones in this super of the moment popular color, I do think that's going to rise above it. So instead of going, maybe instead of going for 140 or 150, it goes for 120 and 130. That's still way more than the guy paid for the car. So your point is noted. But I
the point is it has to be. We have to think about that when we're making our bids. Ultimately, let's see who just mentioned this. Kevin Bodeman made a good point, and you stole my point, buddy. It depends on who painted the car, and then Brian really brings it up. He's like, he mentioned that it may have been an accident, and that's what I'm concerned about. Like, I really don't give an F about the paint. When I see a poor paint job with overspray, I'm concerned about an accident, especially in a quarter panel. Like, on the hood, like, almost all 911s have paint work on the hood because the front ends are low and every rock hits them and they just get all chipped up and dinged. And so it's very, very common to, respray the front clip on something like an old Porsche. But when you start talking about quarter panels, that starts to really worry me because this is a car from 1991. Carfax wasn't around back then. This thing could have had a major accident in, I don't know, 1996 or something like that, and that would not be on the Carfax. And it could have been that whole rear quarter panel. I don't know. I'm not saying it has because I just don't know, and we don't have the information. The only thing we have to go on is photos that are not clear enough to say one way or the other. Here's the good news, though. We are talking about a reputable seller. This is not P-Car Market. And the actual seller, 911R, they know what they're doing, and they're honest folks over there. They don't pay us for this. I'm not giving them a free plug here. But I am saying that if someone gets in the comments and says, hey, can you show us some close-up photos of the rubber trim around the Targa top and the Targa glass so that we can see if there's overspray or not, then they'll answer it and they'll show us. And then if there is overspray, then the next question is, okay, is that just because they weren't really paying attention with the paint job, or do we have something else? And they'll dig deeper and that we'll be able to get to the bottom of it. That is the kind of transparency that I think you'll be able to find with a seller on a platform that's reputable. Like if this were in P-Car Market, they would just be like, no, it's fine, right? Don't look over here, something shiny. So I don't know. With all that said, like Kevin Bowes, overspray is a big deal. It shows that the painter didn't care, and I kind of think he's right. That doesn't mean that's something that I wouldn't buy. It's just you have to adjust your value accordingly. This is a very rare car and a very rare color. So I guess let's get to it. With all that, what do we think it's going to bring?
Just to read a little deeper into Kevin's comments, when you see a really nice car with really bad overspray, it makes you feel like an insurance company selected the body shop for the repair and not the person who loves his Porsche.
Well, okay, hold on. Can I say something else too? Because
absolutely.
That's a good
we're
one.
Arguing this. Yeah.
This is not only was Carfax not around in the mid-90s, but through most of the early aughts, call it 2000 to 2010, 964s were worthless. In particular, Targas, and in particular in purple. Nobody wanted this car in 2004. If you owned this car and you were trying to sell it, you'd have been lucky to get $15,000 for it. That was like top money for a 964 in the mid to late aughts. Was like $17,000. You could get RSs for $30,000. So the 964 Speedsters were $35,000 all day long. So this car was just like. So that said, if it got in an accident and call it like 2002. Did someone say, well, look, I don't want to put it on, I don't want to, I'm going to just repair it myself cheaply so that the insurance company doesn't total it, which is what would happen. Seriously, a $6,000-$7,000 paint job in 2005 on this car would have totaled this car. This would be a brandish title at that point. So at that point, if you actually do like the car, you have to make that decision to go out of pocket. So lots of things to consider here. And it's not, again, I feel bad bringing all this up because I'm hoping that it's just an artifact of the photo. and that none of this is at all the case, and that there is no overspray, and that it was done well. I would, but we just don't know because we don't have enough information. All that said, where are we going to bid? What do you think this is going to bring?
Hang on a second. I got a call from Matt Crandall on line 2. He said he's never coming on the show again.
Yeah,
JP, I hear you. And there's a bucket of photos in the listing in the comments that the seller has put out, which is 911R. And they do all the paint meter readings. And it does look like most of the back of the car has been repainted. And those paint values are really high. So when, stock Porsche paints are in the 5s and 6s. And there's stuff back there in the 14, 15, and 16, which is really high for like a really modern body shop could get lower numbers than that. So it's interesting.
God dang it, I keep missing this photo. No, go ahead. Yeah. I'm trying to get that photo of the Targa thing. I was just about to mention it.
So JP, our car closes literally in 15 hours from now. It closes tomorrow. The car is sitting at $82,500 on just 10 bids.
Can I interrupt you? I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but look, I'm trying to zoom in on this as much as the platform will let me. So you see the word Targa and you go straight down, you see the trim. Does that look like overspray all over the trim to you? Because it sure does to me. Wow. Can you guys tell? If you look at the listing and let me know what you guys think in the comments. Go ahead, Deeb. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
not at all. So I'm just going to cover it again, JP. Our Targa closes tomorrow. It's at $82,500 on just 10 bids, which I think is kind of an interestingly low bid number. I still think people are going to look at the color and fight over it. But I think if this car were free of stories, free of questions, if there were no hurdles on the road to the sale, I think this would be a $140,000 plus car, but I'm tempering my bid based on what we're, unearthing as we examine it, because anybody else that's really looking to bid on it is doing the same thing. And I still think, JP, despite all that, this car will bring $125,000 where it will sell. And our consignor, who spent a few bucks reselling the engine, is still going to make close to 40 grand on it and have had a really cool car for the last 4 years, despite the potential overspray. So, John, my bid is $125,000 where it will sell at that number to you. Where are you at?
I agree with you that if it had no issues, we're definitely pushing $150 on this. Because color, I'm with you. I don't recall ever seeing a weird color Targa. The only color Targas I've ever seen are black, white, red, the standard, silver. You know what I've seen a lot? Like if I had to count in my head all the times that I can recall seeing a 964 Targa, like most of them have been like Zermatt silver, that, basically gold, that color, that Porsche, that champagne color. Yeah. A lot of these were kind of specced out by old guys.
We've been doing the show, and I'm, clearly since we've been doing the show, like I'm examining both the classifieds and the auction listings. Most of last year, there was an oak green Targa available in the classifieds that never made it onto one of the auction platforms, and they were asking like $130,000 for that car. And I'm like, you're crazy. The car's never going to bring that money, despite it being kind of a cool color. Today, 130, snap that up in a heartbeat. Like that's a steal. So it's funny how quickly the market changes, and the Targa is a perfect example of this. Yeah. So what was your number, John? Sorry.
I'm gonna say it just gets over 100. I think people are gonna notice this. Ross Churchhouse out there in New Zealand is looking at this thing, and he zoomed in on his computer. He seems to think that it's overspray as well. So I think it's going to come up in the auction at some point, and that's going to put some ice on the bidding on this thing. But I think people are still going to be like, fine, whatever. It's a purple 964, and purple is hot as can be. But I just can't get. I think this is going to be a good value for someone to be able to get this really cool spec car, but not have to pay the $150 or even $130. I'm going to say a $110 964. And hope it gets more money, because we like the seller. It'd be interesting to get Matt on here, maybe on the backside of this. When we go over the results. What do you guys think of this 964 that had some pretty big paint work? Would you care? would you be like, fine, it's such a rare color that I don't care if it's had paint and body work? Or is this the kind of thing where you'd be like, before you bid on it, before you take that risk, before you go off the pier like the 928 with Tom Cruise?
Risky business.
Yeah, exactly. Would you be
Balky.
like, yeah,
Balky, the co-pilot.
need to get a they've got the paint meter, but let's get some magnets on there. How much Bondo is in that thing? I'm not saying, we don't know if that's there or not. Go ahead.
Let me read you a couple ones. So there's too much air in the cockpit of this one for Anthony Vieira. He's our low bidder at $98,500. This is convertible adjacent for him, so he's not interested. But I think our high bidder is going to be Kevin Bodman at $135. He's actually above me, JP, so he still likes it. So there you go. Those are kind of the two extremes based on what I can see in the comments. What's his name? Indy Dave is at 99,911, so he's also under 100. That's the only other bid I can see it's under 100. Otherwise, it's a pretty good spread from the teens to the 30s.
Does this mean I should spend like the $30,000 or whatever it would cost to convert my cab to a Targa?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's like for real. Because cab 964 cabs are trading around 50 grand, give or take, depending on condition and stuff like that. Yeah. All right, I put $30,000 in it. Does that give me 100,000 plus car, or does that just give me? Yeah. Or people you be like, no, it's a convertible. What do you with the Targa loop? It's worth 30. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Should I pull the trigger and start that conversion path? That's a scary thread to pull.
Has Chris Carbine come around and told you that he loves the way your matte black wrap looks?
Oh, Chris Carbine loves mattes. He's wrapping all of his every car at Carbine Motorsports is getting a vinyl wrap now. He called me up and told me so. It must be true.
We got to get Buddha a T-shirt that says on the front, "Bid nerds hate my car," and then on the back, he could say, "Chris Carbine loves my car." That'd be pretty fun.
All right, let's move on to the next card. What do we got?
All right, JP, I selected for you a card that I want you to go down and buy for me tomorrow on our day off. It's a 1970 Porsche 914-6 in the beautiful, I think they call it signal orange. And this car, John, while it's listed on Bring a Trailer, is located in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm telling you, JP, this car gets me going all day, every day, and on Sundays. It just looks to be like a really nice car. The engine came out and they went through the whole thing. There's some photos. That accompany it. Looks like they did a beautiful job building the motor. I'm guessing this thing probably makes more than 100 horsepower that it came with stock. I love the color. I just some cars are just iconic in certain liveries. So if you show me a 914-6 and it's in the bright orange, that's like the color they raced in at Le Mans for Porsche. This is the one I want, JP. Talk to me about what you think of these corduroy seats. Instead of like that leatherette with the leatherette seat centers, these have corduroy, which is the early days of Alcantara. This was to prevent you from sliding around. It was probably a little less expensive, but it also made sure that you wouldn't move around as much in the seat while you were driving it. But this car, JP, these cars were bringing big money a few years ago. This would have been, $130,000 car, but I don't think that's anywhere near that in today's market. And I'm just wondering if I should snap one up or if this thing's still going to be six figures. And if that's the case, I'd probably just build my own. So, John, I thought I would just tee this one up. It's in your backyard there. Would you do me a favor and go down and test drive it for me? Even if I don't bid on it, you get to drive a 914-6 for 20 minutes. Wouldn't that be fun? If I was in town, I would go pick your ass up and we'd go get this and then have lunch. But really cool car, JP. I just like the way it looks. It looks really almost brand new underneath. It looks like it's got a brand new exhaust system with the heater boxes. And that motor has been completely gone through, and it doesn't look like they've driven it at all since the motor went back in the car, or at least since the photos were taken. There's a COA that accompanies it, and it's just sitting there, man. I do want one of these one day, JP, and I'll keep it this time. I won't get one with a roll bar, so I can have fun and hang on to it. But do you like this one as much as I do? This car gets me going, man. I love it. What do you think?
Yeah, great color. You gotta love a 914-6. They really are a special thing. I don't think this car is going to do well, though.
How come? Talk to me. What do you see?
It has nothing to do with anything wrong with the car. I just think 914s are soft as hell. You alluded to it by saying that a couple of years ago, these were bringing all the money. And that's because a few years ago, everything air cooled, everything old, and everything Porsche was just like becoming unobtainium. And, like a rising tide, it raises all the ships in the harbor.
Yep.
And that's what was happening with 914s, because people were like, well, I can't afford a 70 911. That's, $200,000 now. So maybe I'll go start looking at, 914 6s or whatever. This car looks about as nice as a 914 6 can come. I mean, look how clean that is underneath. That is, is that a new engine? Like, what is going on? This thing looks brand spanking new, like literally new. Was it replaced?
No, they just went through it.
Wow, that's just unbelievably clean.
They rebuilt it, and I think they did some nice pieces. I'm not saying they did pistons and cylinders, but I think they upgraded a lot of the components of the motor and made it like I said, it's probably like 125, 130 horsepower motor. And I bet you this thing scoots, because it's going to have that much more torque,
Yeah. I would love to go test drive this thing, because who doesn't want to get behind the wheel of an air-cooled car like this? I don't care how hot it is out here. It's beautiful. I love the orange color too. I love the livery on the 914s when they have the Jägermeister and Lufthansa.
Yeah.
The blue and it just looks so good on the orange. What do we think this thing's going to bring? Is it going to bring big money, or are we going to be kind of soft?
Well,
what's going on?
We're gonna learn some things. So you and I sort of see the market on these very similarly. And I agree with you. Like when the market was hot and 911s you can't afford 911, then you turn and you look at what's the best next alternative. And an air-cooled 914 with a 6-cylinder motor from the factory, that's a lot of value and a lot of driving fun. The smiles per mile are fantastic. Our car, JP, closes 2 days from now, out of Las Vegas, on Bring a Trailer. It's currently sitting at $51,000 on 11 bids. JP, I think this car is just effectively going to double in value from where it's sitting. So I'm going to give you my bid of $101,914. And the caveat that if this guy had sold this car last year, he would have got $30,000 more money for it, or at least $25,000 more money for it. Do you agree? And where's your bid at?
I agree with you that last year this car could have brought that kind of money, but this year, no way in hell. I'm going to say something that's going to freak everybody out, but I would rather have this car for $110,000, or would I pay $120 for this thing? No, but I think this is the kind of stuff that something like this is competing with. I know this RSR backdate thing has all kinds of issues, but one of them isn't how awesome it is, and how easy it would be to make it even more awesome than it already is. We've talked about this car, for crazy, but look, for $120,000, I think you can have this blue car. $120,000 for a 914.6. Yeah, it's more collectible. Yes, it's nicer. But unless you are looking at it as a pure collector, as a driver, I'd way rather get a hot rod 911, and you can get great hot rod 911s now for a little over $100,000 and a little under $100,000. This 914.6 is just like, look, I'll pass it back to you, Deeb, and say, you had one. And it was an awesome car. And yes, I know we're not necessarily talking to apples here, because yours was even more hot rod than this was. But driving experience of a 914, as fun as they are an alternative to a 911. Usually you get one because you can't afford the 911 that you want one. Yes, there are some things about 914s that some people could say are better than 911s. That's a whole other story. But right now, no one's chasing air-cooled cars. There are deals to be had on air-cooled cars. It's not like it was a year or 2 years ago. I think 914s are soft as hell. Would you spend $100,000 or more on a 914.6 right now?
No. I'd be a player for this car if I could have it in the 60s.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't chase it to 75 or 80 grand.
No way.
And I just think with that motor looking as beautiful as it is, and it's a COA and it was born in the Signal Orange, I think this car could get to $100,000. But as much as I want it, I don't like at $100,000. I would be shopping to a different car, like you said. So you made a point that I think all of us understand.
Yeah. So what was your number? You gave your number already, right?
Yeah, 101,914.
Yeah, not a chance. I think this car, honestly, I think it stalls out at I'll go 82 914.
Okay, and then do you think it
huh?
sells? Do you think it sells at your number?
Good question. Boy, if the seller is looking at the tea leaves and has something else to do with the money, then yes. But if he thinks he's still going to get all the money because he just spent all this money on restoring this thing, I think he's in for a sad day, unfortunately. And at least he's going to be stuck with a really, really cool, probably one of the nicest 914s we've ever seen. What do you guys think out there? What's the nerd herd saying?
There's a lot of good numbers, JP, and a big spread. You'll be shocked to see that Anthony Vieira is one of our high bidders at 114,000. Randy B is very bearish on the car at 80,000. Randy, you realize you could take the top off of this car and your head would come up above the windshield line. But let's go through this real quick. So 93, 100, 97, 93, 98. So a lot of people in the 90s, 91, 96. Mike Myers is just over 100. But yeah, there you go. And then Thoroughbred Enterprises just chimed in at 80,000 with a no sale. So John at 82, seems like the herd might think your car won't sell at your number, which is interesting. So, is that residue from the high water mark a couple of years ago, or are they just looking at the caliber of what they see in the images here? And the images aren't even that good, and the car still looks really, really clean. They took some really good shots while the car was on a lift to show you all the new componentry to the motor. It looks like the motor is put back together with all brand new zinc hardware and stuff. I mean, it looks like a work of art, JP. It's it really made me go, oh man, I wish I could have it. But I actually think this is going to go for more than my budget or my, prescribed budget would allow for. But nice car, man, sitting there in your backyard. You could just pick it up for me and park it for the summer, and then I'll pick it up later.
Place. Yeah, sure. Good
plan.
Sure. It's not a car I want in summertime. If we were proper presenters and actually were doing our job as if it were a job, we would go back, and I'd be very curious to go look at 914 listings in the last 90 days. Not just 914.6s, but 914s in general. It does not look like I have not seen any sell in a while. I've been seeing a lot of them in Marketplace and other places, and they just look like they're languishing. I think 914s, if you have one, I hope you like it or have low expectations if you go to sell it. I just don't think these cars are going to bring big money for a while. Until there's a change in the overall market. This is going to be one of the, unfortunately, one of the casualties of a correction that we are experiencing. Risky business or otherwise. Let us know what you guys think this 914 will bring, and let's move on to the next car.
All right, JP. Our good friend John in San Francisco was selling his Corvair a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to cover it on the show, and he said absolutely not, because the car that he was listing, he knew was not a car that he wanted the herd to have to he didn't want us to have to take an honest look at that car on the air and then pick it apart. It was a car that was essentially gifted to him. He put a couple bucks into it to give it some integrity. Then he threw it on there and almost anonymously was like, let it go. But with that car on my mind, I found this 1966 Chevrolet Corvair Monza convertible with a 4-speed manual. I mean, JP, is that chiffon white? Like, I am suddenly having buyer's remorse from the potentiality of selling my Carrera, because I'm thinking I should buy this Corvair and park it in the garage and have twinsies. I mean, let's talk about it, JP. This is a 2+2 manual with a flat 6 air-cooled rear-engine motor. Would that not be the ultimate two-car flex, to have two cars in what effectively both look like chiffon white? This car is called Yellow Point Paint by Chevrolet. Our car is on Bring a Trailer. It's listed out of 6 Mile, South Carolina. Monzas get a little bit hotter spec motor. So this is like 110, I think 110 or maybe 140. I can't remember now. I think it's 110 horsepower, 4-speed manual. The wheels aren't my favorite, but I do like the raised white letters and the fact that the wheels are black. There's a very subtle little black rear, like front chin spoiler underneath the white of the car. So you've got the chrome bumper, then you've got the white and the blinkers, and then you got this little thin black chin spoiler that I don't recall ever seeing on a Monza before. So I'm assuming that's some sort of subtle aftermarket, accessory. And then you've got front bucket seats, a 4-speed manual. I mean, has anybody ever put a prototipo on a Monza? Can I put Fuchs wheels on this car? I dig this thing. I think it'll be really fun to have some fun with it because these things don't go for a lot of money, and yet they're probably still really fun to drive down the road. This is not a car I would effectively expect to chase anybody up Angel's Crest with. I think I would get dusted in the Overton run. But man, when I look at these photos and I look at this car, JP, I want to be in the driver's seat. I want to be driving this car down the road with my wife and her blonde hair in the wind. Like this car. I keep saying to you, I'm not a cabriophobe, but I haven't owned a cabriolet in front of you. This car, JP, would get my money all day, every day. I dig this thing for no reason other than I just love the way it looks. And I bet it would be enjoyable to drive, but maybe not as rewarding on a back road. And for the price of entry, it wouldn't matter to me at all. For all the same reasons you want to have an old white Alfa Romeo Spider for you and Rochelle to rock, I would go driving on that dinner date with you guys and my wife in this car right alongside of you, and it would be one of the best days we've ever had. So JP, for no reason at all, I'm in love with this car, and couldn't help but shamelessly plug this thing on our show. Do you like it even remotely as much as I do? And what do you think about me parking this in the garage next to the chiffon car?
Good idea. I don't know anything about these. Other than I know they have a flat six, and that's about it. I know I drove one years and years and years and years ago, but I don't remember the experience. It was probably a piece of crap one, and I don't think it was a convertible one. This one really does look like a great boulevard cruiser. We know our friend Ralph Nader screwed this one up pretty bad, as well. I mean, that's his job. But boy, I want to drive it. I think that's just a fun place to be. Look at that engine. I mean, look at that. Why can't Porsches have an overhead fan? I know that some of the race cars had that, but I just love that overhead fan. I mean, I feel like that's just like that. I mean, that's look tough, at that, right? Look at the way that belt goes up and over the top. That's probably not the greatest design ever. No. Yeah, crazy, I mean, does anyone out there in the nerd herd have any experience driving one of these? Could you tighten up the suspension? I love the idea of putting a prototype on it. I just don't know. Black? It's just pretty, and I do think it would be a great compliment to your chiffon car. That would be a lot of fun.
Right. So this car, I think, John, and maybe if our other friend John is listening, he's going by the handle Corvair guy tonight on the show. He keeps changing his handle depending on what the show's about. So I think these Monzas came with 110 horsepower, which was a couple of, few horsepower over the regular non-Monza ones. They also made a version called the Corsa, and Corsa made 140 horsepower. I think they had a couple extra carburetors. I'm not 100% sure. But Corsas had a turbo option. So if you got a Corvair Corsa turbo, you had 180 horsepower in 1966. That's actually a legitimately fast car for the era and would give a Mustang a run for its money. I would imagine those actually bring some collectible money. But I just like this car for its lack of pretense. Like I said, the wheels are a little bit silly, but I dig them. I would leave them on there, and it would take me a while until I found something I might like more to put on there. But that little spoiler, that cream color, the black, basically looks like a leather interior, even if it's not. The seats look comfy as hell. Dude, I dig this thing. This is super cool.
A lot of fun to cruise down the Vegas Strip in that at night. I like the wheels. I don't know why everyone's ishing on them. I don't know what they're supposed to look like, so I don't know if it's a matter of
hubcaps.
Hubcaps, I like the mag wheels. I think they're kind of fun. Can you slam this thing? Can we wrap it in flat sateen black just for Chris Carbon because he loves that so much? All right, what's it gonna bring?
All right, John, believe it or not, our car closes in 2 days, and it's sitting at just $10,250. Values are all over the place. I don't think Corvairs are strong in the secondary market, but I do think the nice ones will bring some money. Our car is sitting on just 7 bids. It closes in a couple days. It's at 10-2. JP, I mean, I did a teeny bit of research. Let me just read you this real quick. The average price of a Corvair is $18,000 for a second-gen Corvair from 65 to 69. Haggerty is suggesting that number 2, good, excellent condition is 25, and number 3, good condition is 15. Um, I do think this car is like a 2.5. I think it should be a $20,000 car, but Corvairs are sort of soft in the secondary market, and I don't know if Corvairs just get enough clicks to bring this car up over 20 grand, which is what I think it should be worth. But my bid is going to be 18,500, just because in general Corvairs are soft. And somebody might look at that and see the color yellow and be like, I don't want a yellow Corvair, but I like it. And at 18.5, man, I'd be a buyer all day long. I think that's a tremendous value for the money. And at 18.5, I think you could drive it, enjoy it for 6 months or 6 years, and get your 18.5 out of it. So I like that car for pretty much whatever it sells for, but at 18.5, sign me up. So that's my bid to you, John, 18.5. But when I look at it, I think it's a $25,000 example. I just don't think that's going to happen here.
I'm going to play risky business. I'm here in Vegas. I'm going to roll the dice and say it's $20,000. I think it's going to make the 20 grand. I think this is a really cool car. I don't know anything about them. Like I said before, do you think this car should have been on Haggerty, given that you guys get more American love?
Yes.
If
yes,
so,
absolutely.
what would this car bring there if you had to guess?
Yeah, well, like I said, so the number 2 condition on Haggerty's price guide is actually 25,800. Values on these haven't moved much in a year, but I think this car could have an ultimate value in play. I think this car is probably, at least it presents as closer to number 2 condition. So I would think a number between 20 and 25 would be in play. And so if the car sells or hammers at my number, then you could say this guy left around $5 grand on the table by not going to a domestic heavy site. But chances are if he's on BAT, he might not even know that Haggerty has an auction platform, because we're doing such a bang up job with our marketing.
Does anyone in the nerd herd know anything about these? My big question is, like, okay, that it's got a flat 6 air cooled engine, and it's 160 cubic inch. What does that come out to in CCs? Is that like a 2 liter basically?
No, it's
is it
bigger.
3 liter?
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, I just don't know. I can't do math.
It's 2.5 liter, right? So a 5 liter is like a 302.
Okay.
So 160 is going to be a little over half. So it's like 2.6 or 2.7 liter just by law of averages.
So my question then is, like, okay, are these engines like a 911 flat 6? Like, if this thing breaks, are you talking about a $30,000 rebuild like it would be on a 911? Who fixes one of these? I don't know. Cheap.
Yeah, no, your mechanic, any domestic mechanic that repairs Mustangs and stuff can probably rebuild this car for $8 grand.
Why? Why is this engine so much easier to fix than a goddamn 911 engine? Why are 911 top ends $25,000?
Because the pots come from Germany.
Is that it? Is it just straight up because of where the cars come from? Aren't there, like, how much would it cost? Does anybody actually know in the nerd herd? How much would it cost to rebuild a Monza engine? And if it's not 20 grand or 25 grand or even 10 grand, if it's like cheap, like my partner suggests, like a Mustang engine or a Volkswagen, why wouldn't people be looking for Monza engines to put in their old 911s?
Are you reading the comments to your take? So Randy B says, because America. And then Gerd is saying, because it's a Chevy. And then Dave U is saying, no, dude, these are like Volkswagen engines. They're nothing to rebuild. They're super cheap. This really is, like, I actually think that the ownership experience of this would be very similar to a Carmen Ghia. Like, it's inexpensive, and you can just get parts and soup it up all you want, and it's not worth any more money if you do or you don't. I just
want someone to explain to me why. Why is, like, I get that it's like these other things, but why? Like, what about it makes it so cheap other than it's just American? Like, are there tons of parts for these laying around? I mean, are they just, is it cheaper metal? Is it just literally because Porsche mechanics are a-holes? Then like, okay, if this is the case, can I take my 2.5 liter blown 911 engine to the Chevy dealer that has Monza, a mechanic that knows Monzas, and say, "Hey, do the top end on this thing, will you, for $800 or whatever the heck it is?"
High compression. Yeah, high compression.
I like literally want to know the answer to that question because I just don't know. All right, maybe we'll have to figure that out between this episode and the next one. What do you guys think this Corvair will bring? Is it going to bring big Porsche numbers, or are you? Is this like what's that? Go ahead.
Does the herd think I should buy the car and park it next to my chiffon car? I think that's the 2-car flex right there. Make my wife happy.
I think she would look really good driving that around with the baby in the back hanging out. I think this is a great San Francisco car. I mean, if you can drive around without, some bum throwing poop at you or something like that. If you can be in the nice parts of town, is there such a thing?
Yeah, well, it's Marin. It'd be the nice part of San Francisco is across the across
Not
the bridge.
in San Francisco. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy this car, JP, and then it'll arrive just in time for you to come out for what do we got? We got Cars Un Cafe San Francisco next weekend, next Sunday the 26th. If you're
this
anywhere
weekend,
in Northern,
it's a week from today.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
This weekend, not next weekend. This weekend.
Well, yeah, all right.
This coming weekend.
There you go. Yeah, so JP is going to fly out and be here, and maybe we'll get this car delivered in time to park it at Cars Un Cafe. I got some nice Cars Un Cafe.
Where is this car? It's in like South Carolina, right? We got to go get it and drive it back. All right.
We'll send Buddha to pick it up for us. He's a South Carolina guy.
Man. All right. Yeah, guys, Cars Un Cafe in San Francisco. Come and see us there, or Cars Un Cafe here in Las Vegas. Mikey P will be running that show in downtown Arts District. It's going to be a great show this weekend. And what are you guys doing this weekend if you're not in Vegas or San Francisco? Let us know in the comments. We love hearing about
Memorial Day
events all over the country. It is Memorial Day, so it's going to be
the
extended weekend. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always hot in Vegas on Memorial Day weekend. So if you're coming out to Cars and Cafe in Vegas, bring an iced drink or get an iced coffee from the district or whoever we have doing coffee this weekend. The Friends of the Good Wolf will come up with something.
It's basically June weather, even though it's the end of May. It's like June weather in San Francisco. So chances are when we do the show at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, it'll be like foggy overhead on the water in that Sausalito Mill Valley area. And then as the show's breaking up at 11 a.m., the fog will be peeling back and the sun will start to beat down and it'll be really nice. And then maybe we can go for a drive and grab some lunch. So bring a light jacket, JP, because it could be chilly when we get out of the cars to start the show. I have it on good authority. So we are like unofficially sort of partnering up with a restaurant from San Francisco called Pacino SF. They have a little cafe adjacent to their restaurant. They call it Pacino Coffee Bar. Pacino is going to open a new location on the water at the seaplane in Mill Valley. That's going to be called Pacino Sol Agua. And then they bought a Airstream that they're going to do the Pacino Coffee Bar in front of the restaurant. It'll be the Pacino Coffee Bar Airstream. And they are hosting, it's their parking lot that we are doing the show in. And so I found out that Pacino in San Francisco that is operational is making fresh pastries that they're going to transport over to the Airstream to serve to our Cars and Cafe clients as the unofficial christening of this project that is just being announced to people that they're going to open this restaurant probably in a year or two as they build it out. But the coffee bar is sitting there and it'll be open soon, but they're opening it just for us with homemade pastries for our show, John. It's going to be epic. So come down there and tell a friend. If you have anybody that's your friend with in Northern California, have them come down to the show. The Bid Nerds will be there. It's going to be really fun.
I'm going to have to start my diet when I get back to Vegas. All right, guys. Looking forward to see you this weekend. Shout out to my friend Jeff, who just went through a really tough surgery, and he is convalescing right now. So feel better soon. And there it is, guys. We will see you on Wednesday. Right? I got to hit the button.
The button.
The button or
that
something
button.
like that. There's the button.
The other button.
Get the word!